Hi, I'm Patti Bullard, the owner and designer of Wubbers Jewelry Making Tools. And I'm here at the Fire Mountain Gems and Beads Jewelry Making Studio because I want to share with you not only some new tools, but also a new technique. Today I'm going to show you a fun thing to do with the square Mandrel Pliers. We're going to use the jumbos. And I'm also going to show you a project to do with Argentium silver wire. And I've got a little pair of earrings here that we're going to make a pendant to go with these earrings. And we're going to be using 12 gauge Argentium silver. Now that's some pretty hefty wire. And what makes Argentium special is that it has an element in it named germanium. And the germanium gives it some special qualities that make it very easy to fuse. It's also the most tarnish resistant of all of the sterlings, and it tends to be more hypoallergenic for people. And the other thing I love about Argentium silver is that it is easy to fuse. And today we're going to do a fusing project. If you've never fused or never worked with fire, get ready because you're going to see how easy it is. Now this is 12 gauge. It's supposed to be dead soft, but what you're going to find is sometimes when you order dead soft, especially in the heavier gauges, it feels pretty stiff. But we are working with the Wubbers Jumbo Mandrel Pliers, the squares, and they are pretty hefty themselves. And we're going to see if we can just shape this right around our pliers. Now, I grip the wire with the pliers, and I'm going to press it down the first side, press it across the back, press it back up the third side, open the jaws, cross it over, and then press flat, just like this. Now, you can see I have a square shape. It's okay if it's not perfect yet because we're going to be doing some things to this that will make it perfect. Now, I'm going to take a pair of heavy-duty cutters. I'm going to come in and flush cut one side. Now I'm going to flip it around and flush cut the other one to where these are going to meet up. The ends are going to meet up to finish our square. Now, I'm going to put the Argentium aside and save the little scraps because you can recycle it. Now let's see if our ends meet up well. You can see I'm bending it actually with my fingers. If you have a hard time working with this heavy metal, you can use some flat nose pliers or maybe a bent nose held this way to support the wire. But sometimes I've found with these really big shapes, I can actually manage to do it with my fingers. Now, more important than it being square at this point is we want these ends to meet up very nicely. And once I've got some pressure on them and they look like they're meeting up, I just hold it up to the light and make sure that it's making good contact. I don't want a space between there. Now, I've got my shape formed. We're going to get ready to fuse it. I'm back now and I have my soldering station. You'll notice I like to work on a ceramic tile. This tile provides heat protection for my table, and then I've got a charcoal block here which is perfect for fusing Argentium silver. It provides a little bit less oxygen so my metal doesn't discolor as much. It's very heat reflective, which comes in very handy because I'm heating a hefty piece of wire here. And also I'm going to be using a refillable butane torch, and what's really cool about it is it's very portable. It's not scary. If you've never worked with fire, you can start out with this one, but also I've used this torch to make many a piece of jewelry, even larger pieces. So I think it's an amazing little torch. Now, this is one of the levers here. This one controls the size of the flame. Before I light it, I like to set it right in the middle. Then this right here is a safety. This is the ignition button, and on this other side is the lock, so that once I light it, I just lock the flame on. Now, I'm going to pull the safety down, I'm going to push in the ignition button, and I'm going to pull back the lock, and now I can let go of the ignition button. Here's my flame. I can turn it up just a little bit more, and I'm going to come in and heat my Argentium silver very evenly. I don't have to heat it evenly because it does not conduct heat the same way that copper or sterling silver, regular sterling silver does, but it keeps the discoloration down. Now, you'll notice first it starts to turn frosty. That tells me it's getting warm. Can you see the frosty look there? Then I start watching it pretty carefully, and it will either start to glow a little bit or the frost will burn off and it'll look very shiny silver. When I see either one, when I see it glow or look shiny silver, that's when I focus in on the joint and the metal right around the joint, and I'm going to watch it very carefully. When it looks a little bit like mercury, and when I see it flow ever so slightly so that I cannot see the joint anymore, then I know my piece is done. Now, there's something really unusual about arginium silver, and that is if I touch it too soon while it's really hot, it can fracture or break. And so what I'm going to do is let it cool slightly, about 30 seconds, and then I'm going to move it onto a little bit cooler surface and let it cool just a few more seconds. And then finally, I can quench it in the water and listen to this sound. I love that sound. Now I'm going to take my piece out. I can dry it. I want to dry it before I go any further. And now I'm ready to put my soldering station away. Now, when I look at my ring very closely, I'm going to check it. It is very nicely fused together. I can still see a little line, but that's going to disappear as I work the metal and texture it and hammer it. You can see on the back side there's a little discoloration, and that's normal, but there's an easy way to get rid of it. When I'm just making one piece of jewelry, often I'll keep a nail file handy, and I can just file that right off. I just want to remove it before I do any further work on my square. Let's check this side. One more. Now that looks nice and shiny. I can put my file aside, and you'll notice it's not perfectly square, and I'm one of those perfectionists. I want it right. So now I'm going to take my jumbo squares again, and I usually start on the side where the joint is, because if it's going to pop open, I want to know right away. I put it on the pliers. If it doesn't fit on, don't worry. You can angle it off the end like that. Sometimes, especially if you're working with a lighter gauge wire, you will shrink your shape just a little bit with the heat, and you just angle it off like that. This particular time, it fits right on. So I'm going to put it on and press. That stayed fine. I'm going to flip it and do the opposite side, and you can see how rounded it is right now. When I put it on and press, it goes flat. Do the other two sides. Now stop and look at it good. And it's still a little bit off, plus because I'm using the larger jaw, the smaller jaw doesn't come all the way to the corner, but I can crisp up the corners by flipping this around, putting the small jaw in, holding it snug against the corner like that, and pressing on each corner. That will also crisp up the corners. Now we're going to look at it again, and this one looks really nice and square. If it's ever off a little bit and one side's high, what I would recommend doing is taking it, putting it back on the jaw, lift up on the side that's high, and press again, and you can work that down into a really nice square. Now we're ready to go to the next step, which is really fun. We're going to take a steel block, and we're going to place this on here, and we're going to do a little bit of hammering. This hammer is a really fun hammer that Fire Mountain Gems and Beads carries, and you can look for it because it's well worth having. It's called the 9-face texturing hammer, and you can see I can unscrew a little ring here. It has 9 different faces to give you 9 different textures. I'm going to use 2 faces today. I'm going to use the one that's kind of domed, and this is what I'm going to flatten my metal with, and then I'm going to use the sharp lines to put a texture on. Now, I've got my square. I've got it on a nice steel block. This steel block, notice it's clean, and it's not pitted. It's nice and smooth. That will save me a lot of cleanup work later because it will actually put a nice burnishing on the back side and finish it too. I'm going to take my hammer and just start to tap along the edge. Now, another little tip, if you're worried about your fingers, a lot of times I'll hold my fingers off the block and work over here. Now, what I'm going to do is take it down a little bit at a time. I've made one pass around. I would like to flatten this wire just a little bit more so my pendant is going to be wider. So I'm going to go around one more time. Also notice I'm taking care where I aim my hammer, because if I'm not careful, I'll distort my ring. And I'm making sure I just hammer right on top right now. Also, keeping it a standard width around as I work will help keep from distorting my square. We're getting close. I'm liking this a lot. Now, another thing I like to do when I'm hammering is come around the edge. This is curved enough that this will put a real nice little edge on it. So I'm going to come right on the edge. That rolls that edge under just a little bit. Now, that's a really pretty texture that I've got on there. And it would match these earrings very nicely. But I want to show you one more thing. Even though I'm matching these earrings, I have trouble leaving well enough alone. I'm so excited about this hammer. I want to show you the texture you can get if you use some of the other heads. You can combine the heads or use them by themselves. You could crisscross this one, but let me show you what it does. Again, I'm going to hang my fingers off the block. Now I'm going to turn. Turn. One more side. Let's take a look at that. That's really pretty. I could keep going, but you know, I think I'm going to call that good. Now, I can make a very simple pendant out of this by taking just a jump ring. These jump rings, if you use a 16 gauge or heavier, then you don't have to fuse or solder it closed. I work my jump ring back and forth until I get a little tension there. Now it's closed. And I could hang this on a chain. You can see how pretty that would be. But a lot of times I like to embellish. And here are some earrings that I made using some of the other jumbo Wubbers Mandrel Pliers where I put little dangles in the middle. Here's another one, ovals. And then there's also the squares. Now, I want to show you another little trick. I'm all about tricks, and I could put this in a tumble polisher, but many of you don't have tumble polishers yet. I'm sure that's on your Fire Mountain Gems and Beads list. I have my piece here. I'm going to take a brass brush, and I'm going to brush it. And actually, even if I'm tumbling, I will brass brush my piece, and what that does is it takes the surface down to where it's nice and even, uniform. It's not all roughed up. Then if I want to hand polish, what I can do is take my nail file. This is a sunshine cloth, also in the Fire Mountain Gems and Beads catalog. And I'm going to roll it around my nail file, just like this. And I like it because it's nice and flexible. This sunshine cloth has little polishing compound that are, I think they're called granules or something, but it's perfect. It works really good. I just brace my pendant on here, and oh my goodness, this always gets me excited when I really look. I'll show you the difference once I get half of it done. You can get a beautiful hand polish this way. And sometimes if I'm just doing one piece and I'm in a hurry, I don't mess with my tumbler. Look at this. You can see the difference. There's the part I polished. This is the part not yet polished. Let me finish the other side. And there you go. That is beautiful. And let me just borrow this piece of wire. You can see how it will hang just like that. Now, I hope you've had a really good time learning about fusing arginium. It opens up so many doors to so many projects you can do. And I know you're going to have a great time doing it. If you've ever been a little scared, don't be scared. Now's the time to get started. And you can do that by visiting Fire Mountain Gems and Beads Jewelry Making catalog and their website. And they can fix you up with all the supplies and materials you need to do this. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I look forward to seeing you again.